Welcome to another Lessons Learned episode. And today's lesson is something that, I like to share the lessons I learn or experience. And I just got finished with a week at the beach, well, 5 days at the beach, being very present. And it was so rewarding. It was such a beautiful time of reconnecting with old friends and doing things that I don't normally do, being very busy, juggling multiple things in my life right now. And I was super proud of myself for asking for the time from my new job, which I have been doing since the end of August, like the third week in August, I went back to work. And so I think it's very important that we make time, high quality time, a priority in our life. And so this was something that came up. It was kind of a spontaneous trip in the sense that it wasn't planned out really far ahead of time. It was something that was just like for 2 months prior. We have friends who have a place at the beach, and they asked us if we wanted to join them and a couple of other couples at their beach house. And so we were like, wow, that sounds really fun. Fun people going to the beach. I always love the beach. I'm not as necessarily a super big beach like sand. I do not like sand. You kinda have to like sand to be a beach person, but I love looking at the ocean. I love hearing the ocean. I love the vibe. I love the smell, but, I do not like getting all sandy. But when you can be at a beach house and you're on a deck overlooking the ocean, that's amazing. I love that. And being on the East Coast, we get sunrises, but we don't necessarily get sunsets. And so that's something I love about going to the West Coast. But I have to tell you, there was a full moon the day before we got there, and it was crazy. It's called the harvest moon because all the full moons have names, and it had this, like, orangish tint, and it was so amazing. So it almost felt like a sunset because the moon was right over the ocean, and I took pictures and put it on social media, so if you follow me on social media, you would have seen it. So, it was a kind of a spontaneous adventure, but one my husband and I were, like, on board with as soon as we got invited, but I just had to request the time, and what I did because I thought for me, having started a new job, although I didn't hesitate to ask for the time off, and I think it's very important that we make our vacations a priority, and we don't ever not ask because we think we have to do work instead, or we think it will get turned down. Like, I think some jobs are worth quitting if your company will not let you go on a vacation. So even though I was new, I was like, we made this commitment. Is it okay? And they were like, fine, on board. And they, in fact, wanted me to, it was suggested, I'll just take it off, take all the time off. And I was like, well, I kind of want to just check in every day. So what I decided to do is I checked in the morning. So from nine to noon, I decided I'd work, check email. If there's any meetings in that time frame, then I would do it. So it kind of made it like I didn't feel like I was completely disconnected having just started and being a newbie. So, but it still allowed me to at noon uh, check out of my job and check in with my friends and the place I was at and do the things. And nothing really happens in the morning anyways, especially my age. There's no kids. So it was just all adults, all with grown kids. Yeah, so we were all on the same page with that. And so it was just very low key and really fun, easy people to be with. So I came up with 4 things that I was very present with, and that being present really it just felt so wonderful, and these 4 things that I normally don't do or wouldn't do, but because I was in that environment, I did it, and I found that this week, I'm just more peaceful this week. I'm more calm and it just feels, I don't know, maybe it's the transition of the seasons as well because today is the last day of summer. In fact, I heard that it actually switches at 9 o'clock tonight, my time, East Coast time, and heading into my most favorite season of all. And it's cool. The days are cooler, and it's just a very wonderful time. So I between being very present and having this downtime last week to essentially break bread with friends and reconnect and really reconnect with myself was really valuable. It was really valuable and really high quality time. So I highly encourage it. And yeah, I want you to maybe learn from this lesson and think about how you can carve some time out for you to get present. And really, we should be doing this every day. Meditation is getting present. And I try to meditate 10 minutes every day. I journaled this morning. So just like that time is so valuable to connect with ourselves and our kind of our inner voice, our higher self. And so that's the way we get hints. We get signs. They're sent when we are spending time in the present moment and just being more quiet and not so busy. So this busy woman stopped being busy for at least several afternoons last week. And that is why I didn't get a podcast episode done. But I was thinking about you. But I got over the guilt. I was just said, no, this is more important. And I don't do this very often. And it's important. And then I realized that this can be a lesson. So the 4 things that that I got very present on, they may be a little surprising to you because they're so simple, but they meant a lot to me. First of all, I really paid attention to the sunrises and the sunsets. And I don't know if you've been an older person, you kind of do this, but I tend to get up early. uh, it's just like you get up early when you get older. I don't ever sleep in really. Even if I could sleep in, even if I stay up late, I just don't sleep in. And so a couple of the guys were very early birds, and they would get up and they would go out on the deck and they would essentially be there while the sun rose. And so I could hear them. We had a room that was kind of below the deck, but facing the beach. So I could hear them when they were talk. So I'd wake up and I'd hear them and I'd see that the sun was rising. And I'd be like, I want to go look at the sun rising. It felt really, I was really called to do that. It's interesting that that felt that way, but I really, looking back, I woke up really feeling happy and called to go upstairs and outside and enjoy those moments as the sun was rising. So we did that, and then the sunsets, as I said, were amazing. This moon was incredible. I mean, it's still imprinted in my mind how beautiful it was. And you know how full moons, even the day after, like our first night there was the night after the full moon, so it still looks pretty full. And then it slowly kind of becomes less full. So, but pretty much every day for the 3 days after, it just was still brilliant. It was still just the most beautiful. And then sometimes clouds would cross it. And my iPhone camera, I now have the 13, which has the 3 lenses, so you can get like a beautiful shot. And it's funny. I remember my last phone camera, it would look really good, like through the naked eye, and even when I looked through the like frame, it would look good. But when I took the picture, it was like fuzzy and not good. This camera takes like photographer pictures, and so it was really, really amazing to be so present. How many moons do I completely ignore? How many sunrises do I never pay attention to? It's just like, not, I just go on about my merry way, not even realizing the beauty that is every day and every night. So that is the first thing that I was really present to. And it's still with me a week later. And then The other thing is that the people who we were visiting, whose house it was, had this huge sound system. Now the house, 8 bedrooms, 11 bathrooms, humongous. It had this really large living area. It's like a big open space, like I can't even tell you how high the ceilings were. Ginormous, cathedral ceiling with the couches, so different seating areas, and then fireplace, TV, and big old kitchen with a big old island. So you can imagine a big old table where everybody could sit at. So uh the sound system was amazing. So this sound system that was piped through the house. And so they were so into music that it was on. It was like they would get up in the morning and they'd turn on the music and it was on all day. Uh, and it was the best music. I was like, what is this station? What is, I still need to go back to her and say, like, what was that? I think she said it was Pandora. I use XM, Sirius XM, and I like the coffee house and I like blend and pulse is good, but this station was like every single song was a song I loved. Some were from like the 80s and but everything was great and it was just like one you want to dance to it. It just injected in you this feeling of happiness because music does that to us, but especially when it's music you love, because if it's music you don't love, it's not going to do that as much. But just being around music, because I will play music, but I don't have music on all the time. When I think of it, I'll be like, oh yeah, I should play some tunes. I'll put on the spa channel on Sirius XM. I have it piped through my Alexa. I'll say, Alexa, play, spa music or play coffee house because I like that. It's just like music that you can. It's more subtle and it's behind the scenes, kind of like because if it's music you want to dance to and sing lyrics to while you're trying to work, it doesn't work so well. But because it was at the beach, it was just this music that was like, I got so into it. I loved it. So that gave me being present to that feeling was amazing. And I kept thinking about like, why do I not listen to more music? I know how it makes people feel. I encourage my students to listen to music, but it's just something that I haven't done enough of recent days, recent time. And so that is going to be something that I do more of, but it was really nice to get present to music again in my life. The third thing was that I just spent time wandering aimlessly on the beach looking for heart rocks. So I guess it wasn't completely aimless if I had a goal in mind to find heart rocks, but I really was just wandering. I wasn't even really looking up, paying attention to where I was. I would periodically look up to like make sure I wasn't too far down the beach, but the beach was just rolling in all these really pieces of sand shell, seashell, not sand. Well, it was in the sand, but seashell, because the water was really rough. They had red flags up every day, so you really couldn't swim. And a very significant rip tide. My husband actually saw some people get saved, so they got stuck in it. But yeah, I just was like head down, wandering up and down the beach looking for heart rocks. And I found so many. I remember when I was in Greece and we went on this like 6-mile hike and I was looking for, I didn't think of it until like, we were heading back from the hike, or we were almost to the halfway point. So it wasn't the full hike that I was looking for heart rocks, but more than half the hike I was looking for heart rocks. And I didn't find any until the very, very end, the last few steps before we got back into the town. So I couldn't believe that like every minute I was like looking down, finding a heart rock. And I was like, "Is my brain just attuned to this and seeing it better?" Or, it was just amazing. They were little, and some of them were so little, precious, minuscule heart rocks, heart pebbles. And so just being present to really silence and just letting my mind be empty in a way, not really filled with what am I doing next? What do I need to get done? What's on my list? Checking my phone every 5 minutes, looking at my calendar to see when the next meeting is. No, none of that was in my brain. It was just looking for heart rocks and feeling, I was just out there with my beach cover up. And is that right? Bathing suit cover up, beach cover up, what you wear at the beach to cover up, and hearing the waves and feeling the breeze. Yeah, you can kind of put yourself in there. You just close your eyes and listen to me describe it, and you can just like put yourself in that place. And that being present of just kind of nothingness and enjoying the beach and even the sand. Because the part I was at was the wet packed sand. I can deal with the wet packed sand. It's the kind that once you get wet and then you it's all like loose and sticks to you. Nah, I don't like that. But I only got a little bit on my feet. I did not lay in the sand and get it all in my bathing suit or anything. So it was doable. Didn't bother me. And they had a nice little sprayer on their deck. So didn't last long on my legs. Yeah, and so, that was really nice, and then the 4th and final thing was playing games. Oh my gosh, we had so much fun playing games. Some families play a lot of games, and playing games is such a bonding experience, as long as you're not, it doesn't create a family fight. I guess some games for people who are competitive, it can get into that. I know when my grandkids were here, we lost our electricity, and it was really a blessing in disguise because I pulled out some games, which I wouldn't have ever done if the electricity hadn't been out. We forget how fun it is to just play these silly things that don't require electricity, uh, don't require much, but just our brains. And sometimes some games don't even require much of our brains. But it was so much fun. I learned this game called Chicken Foot. So in my monthly newsletter, which I'm going to send out next week, I'm going to share the link to the dominoes. Their special Chicken Foot uses special dominoes. They're colored dominoes. I think they have up to, dominoes you think have, I don't even know. I'm thinking I'm going to explain how dominoes work when I don't really have a clue, but I think these have more dots than normal dominoes. But they're really nice dominoes too, and they're not expensive. I spent $12 on Amazon getting these identical dominoes that we played and had a hoot with for 2 nights that we played, and it comes in a really nice box, like a metal box, like a lunch box almost. And so we played this game called Chicken Foot, and it was so much fun. We had so much fun. We laughed so hard. Like I said, I mean, it prompted me to come home and order them on Amazon, and I can't wait to play them with my daughter and son-in-law who are going to be coming to visit this weekend. I'm going to teach them a little Chicken Foot. And so, yeah, so playing games, getting present with people that it bonds you to them more so. And we just had so many laughs, so much fun sitting around playing silly games. So yeah, so the 4 things that I did that really kept me feeling much more present, staying in the moment, feeling very enriched and connected to myself. I don't know. I can't it's hard to put into words, but I just wanted to share with you how good it made me feel to be present in those things that I did. And I'll say them again. I was really paying attention to the sunrise and the sunset. I was really listening to the music and being present with the lyrics and how and dancing, like just moving my body to the music. Even if I was just in the kitchen making stuff, I was really enjoying it. Sometimes when we hear music, we're so distant from it because we're so thinking about what's on our calendar or what's next. And then wandering on the beach, not even really caring about anything but Heart Rocks and playing games. So those are the 4 things. Simple, simple stuff. And I love the fact that it is simple because anybody can take these things or find other things to be present with. What is it in your life that you like to do that distracts you from the busy, that takes you away from all those thoughts that are keeping you disconnected from what's most important is who you're with at the moment. And if you're with nobody, who you are. And those thoughts that often come up when we're in this present moment, thoughts that aren't necessarily geared towards, the to-do list of things that because you're kind of like you're not in that space, right? You're not. Your mind is just like in the moment you're in, and what's important with that. And sometimes these things come up and speak to us, and they might not make sense, and they might be like, you might even be like, where'd that come from? But those present moments are vital for that stuff. And that stuff needs to bubble up. Sometimes I think of like gardening or just like walking in nature is something you could do every day. I did that today, for example, with my dog, but I was listening to an audiobook. So it wasn't really disconnecting in a sense because I was filling my brain up with stuff that's kind of like coming through the AirPods to me. So if I was like, I mean, I could have listened to music and been kind of like used that as the present moment thing, or I could have just been silent and walked in silence. But being at the beach forced me to do these things and just doing them and being aware that it was different, being aware that it really made a difference in how I felt. And it lingered. It stayed with me. That good feeling is continuing with me. And it's teaching, it did teach me a lesson learned to just really make it a priority to continue to do this and stay in the present moment more often. Don't make it just be a vacation thing because some of us don't go on vacation and we certainly don't go on vacation enough. So, but we need to stay in the present moment as much as possible, as much as we can, and carve out that time for yourself and treat it as self-care because that's what it is. All right. So that's my lesson learned this week. And I'm excited to bring you more. All right. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning into the Not Your Average Lives podcast. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe on iTunes if you have an Apple device. You can find free resources and learn what else I have going on at the moment that might interest you on my website at notyouraveragegrandma.com. You can also find me on Instagram or Facebook at Not Your Average Grandma. If you liked this episode, it would make my heart so happy if you could leave me a 5-star rating. You can also add a review to let me know what you like about this podcast, which will help spread the word about it to others who need a little midlife inspiration. As always, be you, listen to your inner voice, and focus on reigniting that lost spark so you can start living your own Not Your Average life.